when the weight of the world presses against your chest, and the air feels too thick to breathe, when the nights stretch long, and the mornings arrive without promise. That is when the heart begins to tremble with worries it never invited. Hard times have a way of arriving without warning, stepping in unannounced, claiming space in our minds and in our homes. They sit at the edge of our beds, follow us through the hours, and whisper their dark possibilities into our ears. But my friend, the presence of trouble is not the end of your story. The arrival of hardship is not a sign that you are unprepared, unworthy, or undone. It is a reminder of what it means to be human, to be alive, to be breathing through a world that bends us but cannot break us unless we hand over the pieces. There are moments in life when worry feels like the only companion that won't abandon you. It clings to your thoughts like fog on a window, blurring everything, dimming every vision, softening every dream, until nothing looks like it did before. You wake up with it sitting on your shoulders, follow it through your tasks, carry it into conversations, and lay down at night hoping it will tire before you do. But worry is tireless, and it thrives on the attention you give it. The more you stare into its shadow, the larger it grows, until you begin to forget the shape of your own strength. But let me tell you, you were not born to live in that shadow. You were not designed to walk bent, carrying fear in your spine like a permanent weight. The body you inhabit, the mind you carry, the heart beating in your chest, these were all created with resilience hidden inside them. Hard times may shake you, but they are not meant to silence you. They may press you down, but they cannot bury you unless you lie still and surrender the fight. And you, my friend, were not born to surrender. There is a moment that comes to every soul when the fear becomes too loud, when the mind becomes too cluttered, when the heart feels too bruised. That is the moment we must pause, not to give up, not to collapse, but to breathe. There is a power in stillness that the worried mind often forgets. When you allow yourself a breath, not a rushed gasp, not a hurried inhale, but a deep, generous breath, you disrupt the rhythm of anxiety. You remind your body that it is safe. You remind your mind that it is stronger than the storm inside it. You remind your spirit that every breath is a declaration: I am still here, and I am still capable. You may look at your life and see pieces scattered across the floor, dreams undone, plans interrupted, hopes bruised, and you may believe that this is the end. But there have been people before you, standing in places darker than yours, walking through nights longer than yours, carrying burdens heavier than yours. And they rose. They rose not because they felt fearless, but because they chose to stand even while trembling. They chose to keep going even when the path ahead looked like fog. They chose to trust that if they kept moving, the next step would reveal itself. You have that same courage. It is inside you, whether you feel it or not. Hard times will tell you that you are alone, but you are not. You come from a lineage of survivors, some known to you, some forgotten by history, but all woven into your existence. People who prayed when they had nothing, who worked when they were weary, who held on to hope, even when hope looked like a fraying thread. Their spirit lives in your bones. Their strength echoes in your heartbeat. Their resilience breathes in your lungs. When you worry that you cannot endure, remember, you are not starting from nothing. You are continuing from everything they survived. Worry has a habit of multiplying when left unchallenged. It grows from a thought into a belief, from a belief into a fear, from a fear into a cage. But cages can be broken. Doors can be opened. Thoughts can be redirected. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself questions that worry cannot answer. What is still within my control? What step can I take now? What truth am I forgetting about myself? Worry thrives on vague fears, but clarity weakens it. When you name your fear, you shrink its power. When you challenge it, you weaken its hold. And when you breathe through it, you declare that fear may visit, but it may not govern. There will be days when your heart feels too tired to be brave. On those days, gentleness becomes an act of strength. Speak to yourself kindly, even if the world around you is harsh. Rest your weary bones without guilt. Feed your spirit without apology. Hard times may demand much from you, but they do not require that you sacrifice your humanity. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to cry, to pause, to step away. Rest is not weakness, it is preparation. Even the strongest trees sway in the wind, but they remain rooted because they know when to bend. When worry circles your mind like a restless bird, calling for your attention, remember this: your thoughts are not tyrants unless you let them be. You have authority over your inner voice. You can choose which thoughts to nurture and which to release. Fear will knock on the door of your mind again and again, but you do not have to invite it in. Let it knock. Let it rattle the frame. But do not open the door. Your peace is worth protecting. Your clarity is worth defending. Your future is worth more than the fears that try to rewrite it. When times are hard, gratitude feels like a small flame in a vast darkness. But even a small flame can push shadows aside. Look for what remains. Not because your troubles are insignificant, but because your victories matter too. Look at the breath still flowing into your lungs, the strength still carrying your steps, the heartbeat still insisting on life. Look at the people who care for you, even if they are few. Look at the days you thought would break you but didn't. Look at the storms you outlived, the nights you survived, the wounds that turned into wisdom. Gratitude does not deny pain. It reminds you that pain is not the whole story. Worry appears when we try to carry tomorrow's challenges with today's strength, but you were never meant to fight battles that haven't yet arrived. Today has its own work. Today has its own burdens. Today has its own blessings. Handle what you can with the strength you have now. Tomorrow will come with new strength, new clarity, new provisions. Life has a mysterious way of giving you what you need at the moment you need it. Not before, not after. Trust that timing. Trust that unfolding. Trust that you do not have to know the whole path to take the next step. Whatever hardships surround you now, they are shaping you, refining you, stretching you into a stronger version of yourself. Hard times are not punishments, they are teachers. They reveal your endurance, your creativity, your determination. They peel away the unnecessary so the truth of who you are can stand uncovered. They strip away illusions, forcing you to see what truly matters. They harden your spirit but soften your heart, teaching you strength without cruelty and resilience without bitterness. There will come a day, not far from now, when you look back at this chapter and realize you survived what once felt impossible. You will remember the nights when sleep refused to come, the mornings when you woke with fear sitting beside you, and you will say, even then, I kept going. You will remember the moments when loneliness felt like a shadow, when worry tangled your thoughts, when doubt tried to silence your courage, and you will whisper, even then, I kept going. And that truth will fill you with a quiet pride, the kind that does not shout but stands tall inside your chest. Do not underestimate yourself. You have walked through fire before. You have risen from places that once looked like endings. You have found light in spaces that once felt impenetrably dark. This moment is not bigger than you. This chapter is not stronger than your spirit. Trouble may visit, but trouble does not own the house of your soul. Hard times may surround you, but they cannot hold you captive unless you hand them the key. So lift your head even if your neck trembles. Stand up even if your knees shake. Speak life to yourself even if your voice quivers. Walk forward even if the path is fogged. Trust that every step is progress. Trust that every breath is victory. Trust that you are becoming someone stronger than the person who first walked into this storm. And when the worry returns, and it will, because worry is persistent, Meet it with the knowledge of who you are becoming. Remind it that you are not the fragile soul it once intimidated. Remind it that you have walked through nights darker than this. Remind it that your strength is not measured by how loudly you stand, but by how quietly you continue. Hard times may shake you, but they cannot claim you. You are too strong to be undone, too brave to be silenced, too resilient to be stopped. And so, my friend, when you find yourself worrying in the dark moments, place your hand on your heart and feel its steady beat. That rhythm is a reminder that you are still alive, still present, still becoming. Let that beat guide you out of fear and into faith. Let it remind you that nothing, not loss, not fear, not hardship, not uncertainty, has succeeded in stopping you. You are here, you are breathing, you are rising, and you will rise again. Hard seasons refine you into someone wiser, not weaker, because every moment of struggle carries a lesson carved beneath its weight. When life pushes you into a corner and the world feels unsteady beneath your feet, something inside you begins to awaken. Something deeper than strength, more ancient than instinct, something that has lived through storms you don't even remember surviving. Hard times have a way of polishing the rough edges you didn't know you had, bringing forward a version of you that would never have appeared without the pressure that challenged you to evolve. People often imagine wisdom as something gained in peace, in quiet reflection, in long afternoons filled with gentle light. But true wisdom is more commonly forged in the dark, in the moments when you are unsure, afraid, hurting, or exhausted. It grows in the silence after disappointment, in the breath collected after bad news, in the choice to rise again when your knees are trembling from the last fall. When the world becomes difficult, the surface level comforts fall away. You no longer have the luxury of pretending, of performing, of distracting yourself with the noise of daily life. Hard seasons force you to meet yourself honestly. They strip your illusions, reveal your patterns, and confront you with the truth of how you think, how you react, how you cope. And in that confrontation, growth begins. You start to see what truly matters. You begin to understand which fears are real and which are illusions. You learn the difference between what drains you and what strengthens you. You notice the people who stand with you and the ones who disappear. You recognize the places where you have underestimated yourself. Hard seasons do not merely test you. They teach you the curriculum of your own character. In the quiet moments after hardship, when the intensity softens but the memory of it still lingers, you begin to reflect on what you endured. Maybe you learned patience because life refused to move at your pace. Maybe you learned resilience because the situation demanded it long before you felt ready. Maybe you learned discernment because not everyone around you understood the depth of your struggle. Maybe you learned compassion because your own suffering opened your heart to the hidden pain in others. Each of these lessons adds layers to your spirit, turning you into someone who sees deeper, understands wider, and loves more thoughtfully. Wisdom does not appear all at once. It arrives slowly, piece by piece, each time hardship bends you without breaking you. There is a particular clarity that comes from surviving what you once feared. When you walk through difficulty, your old worries begin to lose their power. What once felt overwhelming no longer carries the same grip on your spirit. You begin to look at life from a higher viewpoint, noticing that some things are not worth losing sleep over, that some battles are not meant to be fought, that some fears are too small to carry into your future. Hard seasons shift your perspective in ways comfort never could. They show you what is temporary and what is permanent, what is important and what is noise. They help you recognize which doors are worth opening and which ones you must walk past. Strength built in ease is shallow. Strength built in adversity is unshakable. When you endure hardship, you begin to trust yourself in ways you couldn't before. You learn that even when you break down, you can rise again. Even when you lose something meaningful, you can find your way forward. Even when your heart is heavy, you can put one foot in front of the other. This self-trust is the foundation of wisdom. It frees you from relying on the outside world to validate your worth or secure your peace. You begin to understand that everything you need to overcome is already within you, waiting to be activated by the challenges that come your way. Hard seasons also reveal the truth about the world. They show you the value of simplicity, the beauty of small joys, the importance of boundaries, the irreplaceable comfort of authenticity. As you navigate difficulty, your tolerance for superficiality fades. You no longer seek approval from those who don't understand your journey. You stop chasing validation that doesn't fill you. You release commitments that drain you. You outgrow narratives that once held you back. This shedding is not a loss, it is liberation. Through hardship, you no longer hold on to things that were never meant to stay. And perhaps most importantly, wisdom grows in the spaces where you learn to sit with discomfort without letting it define you. Hard times teach you the art of staying present, even when your heart wants to run. They teach you to acknowledge your emotions without drowning in them. They teach you to distinguish between suffering and growth, between fear and intuition, between loneliness and solitude. You become more patient with yourself. You learn that healing has no timetable. You learn that growth often disguises itself as chaos before revealing its beauty. You learn that pain does not come to destroy you, but to shape you into someone stronger than before. Over time, as you gather these lessons, you begin to notice that you respond to life differently. You do not panic as quickly. You do not assume the worst as easily. You do not let temporary setbacks convince you of permanent failure. You have walked through enough storms to know that the clouds eventually part. You have endured enough nights to trust that morning will come. This quiet confidence is the mark of wisdom, the kind that is earned, not inherited. Hard seasons refine your heart so you can love more deeply. They refine your mind so you can see more clearly. They refine your spirit so you can rise more steadily. Nothing you endure is wasted. Every hardship plants a seed of insight, and when the time is right, that seed blossoms into strength, clarity, resilience, compassion, and courage. And you begin to realize that though the season was harsh, though the journey was heavy, though the nights were long, something precious has been shaped within you, something that will guide you through every chapter that follows. You rise faster when you stop rehearsing the worst and start believing in the possible, because so much of what holds you back in life doesn't come from the world around you, but from the world you build inside your own mind. When worry becomes a habit, the imagination becomes a battlefield. The mind begins to replay the same fearful scenes, repeating them like a broken record until you start believing the future is already doomed before it even arrives. You start predicting disaster, preparing for pain, bracing for disappointment, and without realizing it, you begin shaping your life around a script that was never written for you. But the moment you interrupt that script, the moment you decide to stop rehearsing the worst-case scenario, something within you shifts. You redirect your energy, reclaim your power, and begin to rise in ways you didn't think possible. The human mind is powerful enough to build prisons out of thoughts, but it is also powerful enough to break those prisons down. When you imagine failure repeatedly, you begin to move through life as though failure is your destiny. Your decisions shrink, your courage fades, your dreams quiet down until they barely whisper. But when you choose to imagine possibilities instead, the opposite happens. The mind begins to open, stretch, and breathe. You notice opportunities you once overlooked. You take steps you once avoided. You speak with a confidence you didn't know you possessed. You begin to move as though life is working with you rather than against you, and that shift invites change. Worry is a thief of potential. It steals your time, your peace, your creativity, your joy, and your strength. It convinces you that safety is found in staying small, in avoiding risks, in holding back your heart and your talents. But safety built on fear is not safety at all. It is a cage, and a cage does not protect you. It confines you. You rise faster when you stop living in that confinement, when you stop letting fear write the story before you have even lived it. Possibility is not naive optimism. It is the courage to see beyond what has hurt you, the bravery to trust that the future can hold blessings even if the past held burdens. The mind has a way of replaying old pain as though it is preparing you for new pain. It clings to memories of betrayal, disappointment, loss, or failure, and insists that the same ending is waiting around the corner. But that is simply the mind trying to protect you from being wounded again. It means well, but it does not always know the truth. Sometimes the mind clings too tightly to what it should release. Sometimes it warns you about storms that will never come. Sometimes it pushes you into fear when life is offering you growth. Rising faster means teaching your mind a new language, a new rhythm, a new way of interpreting the unknown, not as danger but as possibility. Possibility is the doorway to transformation. When you walk into a situation believing that something good can come from it, you carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You notice details differently. You respond with patience, resilience, and creativity. You become more open, more curious, more willing to try again. Believing in possibility doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to be limited by fear. It means understanding that reality can be shaped, influenced, redirected, and improved by the choices you make, the thoughts you nurture, and the faith you cultivate. When you rehearse the worst in your mind, you begin to live from a place of defense. You guard your heart too tightly. You avoid chances that might have brought you joy. You silence dreams that once brought you excitement. You start building walls instead of bridges, expecting loss instead of welcoming love, bracing for disappointment instead of preparing for opportunities. Rising requires the opposite. Rising asks you to live from a place of openness. It asks you to let hope breathe. It asks you to imagine something good waiting for you ahead, even if your past has taught you otherwise. Too often, we move through life expecting trouble because trouble once found us. But the past is a chapter, not a prophecy. It is a teacher, not a destiny. Believing in possibility means allowing yourself to grow beyond old wounds. It means trusting that healing changes you. It means recognizing that you are not the same person you were when you were hurt. You are wiser now, stronger now, clearer now. And because you are different, your future can be different too. You rise faster when you stop analyzing everything through the lens of fear. Fear magnifies uncertainty until it becomes unbearable. It exaggerates risks, highlights everything that could go wrong, and blinds you to everything that could go right. When you stop feeding fear with your attention, its voice becomes quieter. Its grip becomes looser. Its influence becomes weaker. And as fear weakens, faith strengthens. Faith is not blind belief. It is the willingness to take steps despite uncertainty. It is the decision to act even when the outcome is not guaranteed. It is the understanding that you cannot grow without movement, and you cannot move forward if you are constantly expecting the worst. There is a heaviness that comes with imagining the worst. It weighs down the shoulders, tightens the chest, and slows the steps. It steals the spark from your eyes. It drains the energy from your days. That heaviness becomes a habit if you do not challenge it. But the moment you shift toward the possible, that heaviness begins to lift. You breathe a little easier. You move a little lighter. You think a little clearer. You begin to see the world with a renewed sense of potential. Rising is not always about running. Sometimes it is simply about releasing what pulls you down so that you can float back to the surface. The mind is like soil. Whatever you plant, it multiplies. If you plant fear, worry grows. If you plant doubt, insecurity grows. But if you plant hope, courage grows. If you plant gratitude, peace grows. If you plant belief, opportunity grows. Rising faster means becoming deliberate about the seeds you plant. It means refusing to water the weeds of worry and choosing instead to nourish the flowers of faith. It means understanding that your inner world shapes your outer world far more than you once believed. There will always be unknowns ahead of you. There will always be things you cannot predict, control, or prepare for. But the absence of certainty does not mean the presence of danger. The unknown can carry blessings just as easily as it carries challenges. The future can bring healing just as easily as it brings hardship. When you stop rehearsing the worst, you give the future permission to surprise you. You give life room to be good to you. You give your spirit space to grow. Believing in possibility transforms your relationship with difficulty. You begin to see challenges as temporary rather than permanent. You begin to understand that setbacks are part of the process, not signs of failure. You begin to approach problems with creativity instead of panic. You begin to respond with patience instead of frustration. And this shift allows you to rise not only faster but stronger. Because every time you choose possibility over fear, you strengthen your inner resilience. You teach yourself how to navigate storms without losing yourself in them. You rise faster when you learn to speak to yourself with compassion. The inner voice becomes a guide during difficult times. If that voice repeats fear, doubt, and negativity, it will slow your steps. But if that voice encourages, supports, and believes in you, it becomes a source of strength. Rising requires self-kindness. It requires forgiving yourself for past mistakes, releasing the self-blame that holds you hostage, and embracing the truth that you deserve to move forward. You are not defined by your fears, you are defined by how you rise above them. Possibility also requires presence. You cannot rise if your mind is stuck in tomorrow's problems or yesterday's regrets. Worry pulls you away from the present moment, where your strength lies, where your choices lie, where your power lies. Rising means grounding yourself in today. It means asking yourself, what can I do right now? What step can I take today? What thought can I choose in this moment? Rising happens in the present, not the future you fear or the past you cannot change. Life has a way of revealing new paths when you stop predicting disaster. Doors you never expected to open begin to unlock. People you never anticipated meeting come into your life. Opportunities appear in the spaces where fear once stood. Rising is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it is a gentle unfolding. Sometimes it is a quiet realization that you are no longer the person who once panicked at every uncertainty. You have grown. You have softened. You have strengthened. You have risen in ways you didn't even recognize while it was happening. When you embrace possibility, you begin to move with a new energy. You walk into rooms with a sense of calm instead of a fear of rejection. You make decisions based on what feels right rather than what feels safe. You speak with authenticity rather than hesitation. You love with openness rather than fear. And life responds to that energy. New experiences begin to flow toward you. New blessings begin to find you. New chapters begin to unfold. Allowing yourself to believe in possibility does not mean ignoring the reality of hardship. It means believing that hardship is not the only reality. It means trusting that good things are just as possible as bad things. It means remembering that you have survived everything you once feared, and you can survive whatever comes next. It means understanding that life is not simply a series of difficulties, but a series of opportunities to evolve, expand, and rise.